all of us are on this same mission to improve the lives of people in Virginia, and every small thing that we do does make a difference. Uh, I will start out in talking about our civic engagement plan this year. One, Virginia Interfaith Center annually during the General Assembly, we go up to the General Assembly and we meet with our legislators and try to advance policies and programs that will, better the lives of people in Virginia. But before we can even get to that piece of work or civic engagement, we always start with trying to elect officials, people who represent us, that share our beliefs and or our passion or our personal uh, personal beliefs towards making society better. And in doing so, we always start out with trying to make sure that all people are registered. Now, in the old days, we would go out and set up a table, or you could set up a table in your congregation to encourage your parishioners to or your congregants to make sure that they're registered, or if they're new to the community, they may be a new person in your community. We want to reach out to them and ensure or give them access or information on being registered. Uh, Nowadays, we have a lot of ways of doing it separate from just using the forms that the election board provides us, where we can do it online uh, with your cell phone. So we encourage people to register online. Uh, we encourage people to uh, encourage other people to make sure they're registered, but not just make sure you're registered, but also check your registration. There have been times that people have missed votes. Like, for example, tomorrow is election day for the primaries tomorrow. And there are times that people, for certain reasons, may miss an election, whether it's a primary or a general election. But what happens is if you miss a certain amount of elections for any reason, it could be medical or vehicle related and things like that. If you have no activity for a certain period of time, your name can get dropped off the rolls. So it's important to check your registration. Uh, it's very important because it's the first step to actually doing advocacy, that you are able to vote for elected officials. So we're encouraging how to make sure people are registered and give them information about registering and checking their registration. Um, Here's another thing that I've been recommending to people is, you know, you could go and set up a table, but I always say start with your friends and family. To make sure that your people that you come in contact with are registered to vote. And if you do that through 5 to 10 people, that will make a difference, especially if they're checking and confirming their registration. All right, so that's where we all begin. We start at the registration, then we go into our education. As far as educate, it's good to be registered, but you need to know when you go to exercise your right to vote, your sacred right to vote, you need to know about the candidates. In the old days, people used to work vote party line. They just say, I'm either going to vote the straight Democrat or straight Republican. But because Virginia Interfaith Center works across party lines, we work with both parties to advocate policies that will help people in Virginia. Uh, we say that you need to clearly understand some of the values of these candidates. So we ask that you research, that you go to the folks' web pages and things of that nature. So, for example, this year we have a number of races. The most critical is going to be our governor's race. That's going to be in November. Tomorrow marks the end of the start. Well, the primary elections are tomorrow, the election day. So we do have our governor is running for election right now. We have two. The governor candidates are already locked in. They're not in the primary tomorrow because we have Lieutenant Governor Winston Sears and also the former Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger for governor. Now, on the lieutenant governor's side, we have on the Republican side, John Reed, who's already locked in. And then on the Democrat side, there's like 6 candidates if you're voting on that side. And then we also have candidates for attorney general. And then we have a lot of local races, what we call those constitutional officers or the attorney general. We have, pardon me, I mentioned the attorney general up before this, but like the Commonwealth attorney, the sheriff, and your local treasurer. And then we also have a few, just very few primaries for our House seats around Virginia. So it's important that when you check your registration, also know what your district is so you know who your candidates are and to do the research. As part of our education, not just knowing who the candidates are, we at the Virginia Interfaith Center, we do 2 other programs where we try to provide education or additional information to people we come in contact with. So one of them is through candidate forums. We are right now scheduling a number of candidate forums as they things will really take off after tomorrow when we know who the final candidates will be. But for example, we are right now, we've put together a candidate forum for the governor's race, and that one is going to be on September the, I think it's the 9th. I got it on my little notes over there, but I believe it's going to be on September the 9th. You'll hear more about this, and that is going to be in Arlington. That would be in the invites have gone out and they're scheduled to respond to by no later than today to accept the invitation for Lieutenant Governor Winston Sears and Abigail Spanberger to participate in a debate at the Virginia Tech Innovation Center in Arlington. Okay. So that is on September the 9th. We have that one scheduled, but we also will be doing candidate forums around the Commonwealth, and we have 5 of them that we're working on right now. So that covers our candidate forums. So there's a total of 6. We're also we'll be doing some training. Right now, the Virginia Interfaith Center and the League of Women Voters have partnered to do a training session down in we're going to do the first one in Petersburg, and that one's going to be on September the 20th. And again, all of these dates and things will be emailed out or they'll be in our weekly roundup. But we're going to do a training together in Petersburg on September the 20th. And that one will be training or sharing information about, first of all, on the whole process of our elected officials being elected, and about advocacy, like what we call it Advocacy 101. And also, we're going to show people things that they can do to assist or work if they want to be, if people want choose to be civically engaged and try to make a difference in their community. So we'll talk to them about postcarding. We'll talk to them again about voter registration and things like that. But we'll also we'll actually planning to do some canvassing in the area in Petersburg, and our canvassing again is nonpartisan. So we don't go door to door speaking to residents about who to vote for. We're just going out there encouraging people to vote. So we're very excited about that training that we're going to be doing in September in Petersburg. Again, it's growing our footprint in Virginia because these are areas that we had not really been as much as engaged. Another thing, and Sheila, I'm trying to stay on time for us here. Another thing that we're doing, because after we've done the registration, hopefully everybody's registered. That's where we start. And we've done some education where folks have either done some research on their own and or gone to the websites of the candidates and read about these candidates and or came to some of our trainings or our candidate forums in the areas that we have selected. We also want to encourage people to actually now put their faith in their registration and everything into action. And that's what we talk about the push to get out the vote. If you take anything away from this call today, I would encourage you to have these few words in the back of your mind is what is your plan to vote in November? What is your plan to vote in November? I mentioned to you earlier that we do have early voting because we have the election tomorrow for the primaries, but then we got the general coming up in November, and we have early voting. But we want to make sure that all people that you come in contact have a plan for doing their voting. Again, because things happen, life happens. I was talking to Sheila earlier today. I had my wife's car broke down today, or broke down on Friday, and is in a shop. And we have a third car that we rarely use, but we have a third car, and it broke down today. My wife is right on the road right now, waiting for AAA to come. It was unplanned. Thank God today is not election day because she's in a bad way right now. But this is why we have to plan. We really have to plan to cast our ballot. And probably you, because you're on this call, you're in, kind of focused on this, but that's the strongest thing I can ask you to take away from this call is to have your plan for casting your vote. To also with our get out the vote push, we have last year we did a new initiative called Souls to the Polls. And what that was or is, it is where we partner with different congregations. And when we did it in Richmond, we partnered with multiple congregations and we reached out to community organizations and uh, different fraternal and sororities and things of that nature to encourage all the people to come on a early voting Sunday. It was an early voting Sunday to actually cast their ballots for elected officials. So we're looking to expand on that footprint that we did last year. It was very successful to target a Sunday in a specific area where we're encouraging citizens or parishioners to come out after church and go as a group to make sure everybody who has not voted goes and votes on this day. And we are looking to partner with congregations. We're going to do we're right now we're trying to do 5 of these, and this is like a festive event where people we provided food at the event with it at the polling locations. So we gave out a lunch, and we had DJs there playing music. At the beginning they played gospel music or some religious music, and it was just a very festive and nice atmosphere. The people were like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad I came to vote today. This is so nice. You should do this all the time." And the word got out about that. So we want to replicate that in 5 locations. Just one more area that I'm going to talk about today is our election protection. Election protection. There's a lot of talk about people having problems with voting. When I look at the research here in Virginia, it's not a it's the problems are very few. Is very few. We had a situation here in one of the public housing units last year in Richmond that they for the first hour or so they gave out the wrong ballots. The ballots weren't completed ballots. It didn't have all the candidates on it, and it did make its way to the election board, and it took about 2 hours to rectify this issue. They had to actually release that chief over at that polling place and put another person in charge. The only problem with this was the people who had come and voted early, like at 7 o'clock, those votes were they only voted for half the ballot, and they were unable to to bring those people back and redo those ballots. So what we do is we ask volunteers, and this is a program where we do online training to tell people or explain to people how this is a non-combative role. This is where we give you shirts that have our branded information about election protection, and it has a 1-866 number that if a person encounters a problem with at the polls, that they can approach you, because again, we're just there with our shirts and our clipboards and our information. And if you see a person that looks like they're disgruntled or had a problem at the polls, we take their name and numbers, and we have a command center that we call in the information to. And these people who are volunteers are manning the command center, and we actually have lawyers on staff there to document things, any issues that was occurring at the polls, and also they're tracking too to make sure if there's any patterns or things like that. But I can tell you, we generally in Virginia we haven't had many issues. Uh, and again, this is separate. Like if your name was dropped off the rolls and things like that, I'm talking about actual things at the polling locations. But we do ask for volunteers to go out there, and this, you can go out for 4 hours or so, and bring your chair, and you're not in with the crowd and things, because you got a lot of volunteers out there with the signs for their candidates and things like that. But you're just there as a peacekeeper, or just to offer assistance if someone has a problem. So we are looking for volunteers all around the Commonwealth that are interested in doing that. And Sheila, I will close with this. We have some advocates or people who want to work with us who may have mobility issues. They say, Robert, oh, I would love to do voter registration, but I can't drive, or I just don't have access to go to my congregation. A lot of people are doing their services online and through Zoom and things like that. But they say, I still want to do something. I want to do something. So we have an opportunity for people to do what we call postcarding. And postcarding can assist people or encourage people to vote right from your kitchen table. What we do here at the center, we will send you a batch of postcards. We usually send them in batches of 100, and we will send you postcards with names of what we call infrequent names and addresses of infrequent voters. I talked about these voters before, where you may voted in 2020, you skipped 21, you voted in 23, you skipped 24. These folks are all registered, but they just don't have a straight pattern of voting in every election. And what we do is we handwrite postcards, and we mail them to these list of infrequent voters, and we encourage them to go out and remind them of the voting of election day, and we tell them about their polling locations and where they can vote at, and if they have any questions. And we've had people who have studied, uh, actually did studies on these postcards, and they have found that they have increased the voting of the recipients who have received these cards. Now, I will to be the first one to tell you, can you say that the numbers went up? It was like 7% of the people that we gave these cards to, they actually went out and voted. Was it only because of the cards? I can't say that 100%, but a lot of the folks will take the cards and they will put them on their refrigerator and say, "Oh yes, election day is November the 4th this year," and it will remind them to make sure that they go out and vote. So with that, I gave you a lot of information, and I didn't give you all, but I gave you a little bit to get you started. And I would welcome any questions anybody has. Or Sheila, you'll keep us on track.
You're doing great. That was perfect timing.
Okay.
Arlene, I see your hand is up. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much, Robert. This is great. I've got a question on the election protection. That's the thing I know the least of. So I don't know if you can elaborate more, sort of, if somebody, because I think that is becoming more and more important. And if somebody does want to do that, what do they have a choice of precincts to go to, or is there some place where they think there's going to be the most danger of some issues, or where immigrants might be? I didn't know if you had that kind of information.
Okay, so that is a very good question. uh, our coalition, we're in a coalition of different nonprofit organizations that work in this area, and the head of the coalition, they are still going through the data from the last election in 24, because when the data comes through, they they analyze it. They're they're looking to see if there was patterns. You know, if you had one here and one there and one there and one issue here, that is not showing that there was a specific incident like that one that was in that public housing last year. That one was a specific. It was clearly identified that that was an issue at that polling location. But what we are encouraging people to do is, if you can do this volunteer work, you can go to your local polling location. All right. If by the time the general election comes around, we will have data and we will be able to share if there are specific areas, because somebody may be willing to get in their car and drive. You know, not we wouldn't say if you live in Roanoke to drive to Richmond to do election protection, but yes, we will be able to share some additional information on that later on this year.
Can you tell us who the organizations are you work with on that?
Oh yeah, we got a ton of them. We work with the League of Women Voters. We work with the NAACP. We work with let's see here. There's like 34 different organizations. Uh, the Lawyers Committee, which is based out of DC, but they actually work with us here in Virginia. Ooh, man, we work with, there's a whole list of them, I could tell you, but they're all nonprofit and nonpartisan 501(c)(3)s. So again, when we're out there, we're not advocating or taking positions. We just want to make sure everybody has a right or the access to voting. Here's another thing. We work with an organization called Rev Up Virginia. Rev Up Virginia is a organization that works with expanding the voting for or eliminating or reducing barriers for our folks with disabilities. So even when we're doing election protection, if we are at a polling place where we see that there's a barrier to someone maybe being in a wheelchair or having some sort of a walking assistant and they can't get to the location, we want to report that. We want to report that right away. And sometimes that happens because things happen temporarily, especially at schools. They may be doing some repairs and they haven't taken into consideration the pathway that people have to go, whether it's going up ramps. We had that happen last year. It was a few of those where people couldn't get up the ramp and they called it in. And that's where we try to fix those right away. So if you see the person having a problem, or it could be accessibility to the polls. A person could be doing the drive up and you see that the car is sitting there for an abnormal long time. That would be something we would document and we would call it in and say, I noticed the car was sitting there for over 35 minutes or something like that, waiting to do curbside balloting. So I would put that into space as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Dave.
I mean, everything I heard, I think is really, really good. I mean, obviously, if people don't register and if you don't kind of keep reminding them to vote, then they're not going to get there. One area, though, I'm still a little concerned about, and I'm not sure if it's something we can do, is there's so much misinformation out there that it's really hard sometimes to find the real truth. And because of that, a lot of people sometimes get to the point of they just pull their hand. It's just not worth me trying to figure this out. I'm just not going to vote. And I know that that's a very big mistake because every vote really does count. So I don't know if there's a way. I mean, I think the candidate forums is one way. If you get both candidates there, I mean, you kind of, put them on the spot to hopefully be telling the truth. But if there are resources or if there are websites or other things that, whether they're position papers or something would be very helpful. And I know that VICPP is nonpartisan, so it's not going to be, leaning one way or the other, but I'm just interested in just the truth.
Right, right. Yeah, Sheila, I'll let you go first if you wanted to say something on that, because that is a problem. That
Mhm.
is a problem, and it will definitely require people to do the research. And what happens is a lot of people forward things. It comes across and then it gets forwarded, and it keeps moving. So sometimes we say don't forward messages, especially unless you've verified that the information is true. If someone comes out and says a candidate did something illegally or whatever it is, we encourage people, do not forward that unless you have personally verified it. That's one thing that we say. But go ahead, Sheila, if you had any thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the heart of it, is make sure that the information that you're sharing is correct and appropriate. I do love VPAP, the Virginia Public Access Project. I highly recommend anybody can look there. VPAP is totally nonpartisan, and tons of different organizations and candidates use their research, but you can see who is donating to which campaign, who's got more money, what has this particular district, how has this particular district voted in the past. There is a news update that VPAP sends out every day if you want to get completely inundated with headlines. And then there are some really reliable places for candidate questionnaires. So even if you don't have a forum in your area where both candidates are attending, Cardinal News is a nonprofit, nonpartisan online news source. There will be local, whether it's if you're in Hampton Roads and you might look at the Virginian Pilot, or if you're in Richmond and want to look at the Richmond Times Dispatch, or if you're in Nova, Inside Nova has stuff. But there will be local voter guides that will have kind of side by side. We asked the candidates the same question. Here's what each of them answered. Those are really useful. VPAP and local voter guides, I'd say. And I'm happy to throw the links to both of those into the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions about VICPP's statewide strategy on civic engagement?
May I ask one other question? How does this connect into the statewide offices of the various denominations? So the diocese for the Episcopalians, or the synod, I'm not sure what it's called, but how that's an important intermediate link, I think. How does that work?
Oh man, that segues really nicely into our presentation on 100% voting congregations.
Oh,
So nicely done. The short answer is that, like, VICPP, we are the official advocacy arm of some denominations, but not all denominations. And most faith communities do have some kind of civic engagement. Voting is a civic sacrament, guidance around nonpartisan voting values. But we shared all that in our 100% voting congregation guide. Robert, you looked like you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, we do reach out to those denominational leaders, in the different faiths. Some of them have bishops and things of that nature. So we do reach out to them. And we also try to go to the conventions. Our new director, Dr. Cook, she has gone to a number of conventions and has spoke about our 100% voting congregation program. So that's how we do attack that, trying to get everybody involved. And again, it's all faiths. It's all different faiths.
thank you.
The idea is that, as Robert said, we will never tell you who to vote for. We want people to vote and to be voting their values. And so 100% voting congregations are a way to frame voting and civic engagement in that faith context. So faith communities can sign up to be 100% voting. And that means that they commit to try to get everybody registered, to encourage everyone who is eligible in their congregation to go and vote, to increase education around the candidates, to preach and to share resources about early voting opportunities and different ways to vote. They commit to doing all those things. From us, they get a toolkit on how to run this program, you know, sermon help and links to all those denominational guides I talked about, a giant 3-by-7-foot banner that you can hang outside of your worship center so that both members and people passing by on the street see, oh, that's a community that cares about voting. And also, oh, shoot, the election's next week. I should go vote. That's the heart of 100% voting, both engaging your own members to think about voting in the context of faith values, and also encouraging folks in the broader community to go vote and think about voting in the context of those faith values. I am going to put that link in the chat as well, and also send it out in my follow-up liaison email. The link to register as a 100% voting congregation. We have not been sending out those toolkits and banners yet because we wanted to wait till after the primary, but primary elections tomorrow. So we're really going to be ramping it up over the next couple of months. We do want to see, you know, the Lutheran Synod invite all Lutheran congregations to be members, and we'd love to see the Jewish Community Relations Council invite all the Jewish congregations to be members, or to make the commitment, I should say. At the same with the UMC and the Episcopalians that I see on the call, the UUs. So I would love to see all of your churches signed up as 100% voting, and we're happy to answer questions if you have them around what that commitment looks like and how we can support you in that. Keep your eyes on your email. I will be sending a whole pile of resources, probably sometime this week, likely Wednesday. But yeah, don't hesitate to reach out if myself or Robert or anybody else from VICPP can support you as you work to live your values in public.
Thank you for the wonderful work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.